Welcome to the Stellar Woman Show, the podcast, magazine, and video hosted by Stella Olivia Kikoyo. Each week, Stella will be bringing you a guest or a segment from the Stellar Woman magazine, whose mission is to spread thriving global women's stories, expert knowledge, and experiences covering mind, body, and spirit, fashion and beauty, money, business, and leadership, so that you too can be inspired, learn, be empowered, and thrive. Since knowledge is potential power, our aim is to spread it like light from one woman to another, which we believe will help to bring about change in perspectives and create new possibilities for all women to learn, be empowered, and thrive. We know if one woman thrives, her family and community thrive too, and the world becomes a better and brighter world. With over 100 interviews and stories, articles, videos, surveys, real life and business lessons and trainings, we believe that there's no better women's classroom as the Stellar Woman Show and magazine. Stella and her guests will be exploring how they started, the dreams realized and unrealized, aspirations, the steps taken, the challenges, failures, lessons learned, decision-making process, and what made them successful, and the stellar woman that they are. For more information, check out the website, www.stellarwomanmag.com. Now, here's your host, Stella Olivia Kikoyo.
Welcome and thank you for choosing to be with us here on the Stellar Woman Show. This is part 2 of our courageous decision-making conversation with Beth Lapides. If you missed part 1, please look out for part 1 in the previous episodes. Let's kick it off.
So the next question we have here is to do with the fact that we can see you as a stellar woman who's shining, who has done so many things. Now, the key question people would wait for, has she failed at anything before? And definitely people want to know, how do you get yourself up after going to the bottom or hitting the bottom? And have you failed at anything before?
I fail every day, every single day. I've already failed in this interview 3 times. I can think of 3 things I've said that I wish I hadn't. I mean, if you're not failing, you're not trying. You know, it's like fail a lot. I mean, the fear of failure is one of the key things that holds you back. The courage to fail. You know, I have failed miserably at so many things. You know, the good thing about being a comedian is if it's bad, it's funny. So, you know, eventually most of it is hilarious.
Yeah, I like that. And it's to borrow a leaf from comedians, because they laugh at everything. And at times I just keep thinking, you better laugh at this situation as well, because then it eases you up instead of stressing yourself and really getting out of line.
Well, you know, the equation is pain plus time equals comedy. So it's not usually funny immediately. The bigger the pain, the more time. Tiny things become funny fast.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you for that. But you talked about something that I thought our subscribers and listeners should actually take, is the courage to fail. I just hooked onto that and I thought, wow, that's something strong, something to take away, something to help us to dare to be more courageous.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, go for it, and go for it without attachment. You know, it's the attachment to result that really holds us back. You don't know what the results. There's so many things that are in my life. You know, I've done a project and it hasn't gone where I wanted it to go. And then 3 years later, something I learned in it is key to doing another thing. You know, you just have, you know, the fear of failure is an attachment to result. And I mean, of course, we want good results. I mean, I'm not crazy. We all want to succeed. We want it to work out. And you do want to, you know, you want to have enough success that the failure isn't fail. It's the difference between a noun and a verb. You don't want to be a failure, but you can have some failures, or something like that. You
Yes.
can fail
Yes.
without being a failure. And the way to do that is to learn from your failures and to grow and create, it's another way of saying mistakes. Also, you have to be willing.
Definitely. Thank you. Having interviewed with so many men and women, I would like to know, do you think women make decisions differently from men?
No, I can't answer that. The only thing I would say, I don't see any real gender differences except, I do have a sense, and I have a sense women, hear the clock of time a little more loudly, and that might give us both an advantage and a disadvantage. It does kind of keep you like moving because you hear that clock. There's the baby clock, and then there's the women in the world needing to be young clock. And, we hear the clock for sure, really loudly. And we're trying to run from it. And in a way, it gives us an advantage, but it also can be deafening, and it can keep us from hearing, that quiet. When the clock is really loud, it's hard to hear that small, quiet voice that we have to learn to value. So, in a way, you have to honor the clock without listening to it all the time, I think.
Not another clock without listening to it all the time. Thank you. Thank you for that. Now, you're a host and a producer of Un Cabaret, a comedy show. So why and when did you make a decision to do this show?
Well, like I said earlier on, there was that moment where I was just frustrated with the comedy world, and I thought there's got to be a better way. Suggest a different game, but I had no idea really what it was. I had come from New York, where being a performance artist in New York and then a comedian, and I had very sort of arty idea of what comedy should be, I guess I should say. And there was a lot of showcasing going on. There was a thing called a tight 10 where comedians would just do the same thing over and over. There was a lot of, it was a very hard place to be a woman, specifically in terms of this. So one night I was at the so I lived with the question. If I could say one thing about making decisions, is one technique I use is to try to love the question. I can't always do it, but I do believe in it, which is if I have a question like how to make comedy better, like, I don't know, I can't decide about it because I don't even know what I think, but I can love the question of how would I do that? Like, I want to do it a different way. What is that different way? I didn't have that idea of the question when I was in my 20s, but I do now. But I was living it in a certain way. So one night I was at the Comedy Store and I was following this guy named Andrew Dice Clay, who was famously a very women-hating comedian. And he was doing his usual misogynist stuff. And I was backstage watching, and he was killing. And even just the fact that you call it killing in comedy is so awful. And I was hating him for doing that material. I was hating the audience for laughing at it. I was hating myself for hating everybody because I don't do well with hate, which actually is not a great thing for a comedian. And then I did fail. And then if you want to know, and then I went on. I'm sure I didn't do well. I'm sure I had a bad set. Fail. Then I still didn't know how to change anything, but I had that in me. And then shortly thereafter, I did a show at a place called the Women's Building, which was a small artist, it was a beautiful space where Judy Chicago first did the dinner party. And I was doing a show that I mean, they just were, it wasn't quite as funny as they thought it was. Like, I knew how funny. And anyway, in the meet and greet afterwards, I was like, when was the last time you laughed? I mean, it just wasn't quite as funny as you thought it was. And they were like, oh, we don't laugh. We're women and we're artists and we're lesbians. And if we go to comedy clubs, they just make fun of us. And I said, I'm going to get back from tour. I was actually going to London, and I'm going to make you a show. It's going to be unhomophobic, unxenophobic, unmisogynist. It'll be the Un Cabaret. And I don't know where it came from. It was a download. I had never thought of that word. I didn't really go to cabarets. I mean, I'd seen Cabaret the movie with my boyfriend and his boyfriend. I don't know, it was a very immersive experience. And but I don't know where it came from, but I honored it. That right there is a thing about decision making. So that was super intuitive. I didn't know where it came from. And I might have said, I don't know, this is crazy. Why would you do that? But there was an audience. I honored the fact that there was an audience. And part of the decision making for me is always connection. I long for connection. And that was really just the beginning. But, I did do that. And that was, we ran there and then we moved. And then there's a long story, but that is the very beginning of it. And, I, in some ways, feel the decision was made for me. I mean, I asked the question and the answer was given, and I heard the answer.
And you acted upon it. Thank you. Thank you very much. And it has been running for over 27 years. Is that true?
Well, it's hard to say. I never know where to count from. I never know exactly. Should I count from that first show, or then should I count from, then they lost their space and then we moved to another space, and I consider like that the insemination, and then this other show, the sort of gestation, and then there was another show that was kind of the actual birth where it made noise and everybody, but really from that first thing it's been over 30 years, but I don't know, it's hard to say, but a long time.
Quite a long time. How do you keep it fresh and relevant to the new audience?
I have tried to close it. I have tried to kill it, and has not stayed shut. That is one way I've kept it fresh. I've killed it and it's been reborn. I care about keeping it fresh, and that's one way is, I bring in, and it naturally stays fresh because people move on to other things. I have to bring in other people. I have to move venues because venues close. Mm-hmm. I've changed as a performer. My needs have changed. And because the show itself is really about being in the now, it is performers with new material, and I'm obsessed with sort of trying to name the now. And so even if nothing else changed, I mean, it has been experimental and open to new formats. We were on the internet before. I mean, when we started, there wasn't even cell phones. That's how long it's been. So we've really, we did an award-winning website when that was new. We've done, we did a series for Amazon before Amazon was really a thing. I mean, it's always it's always been a little bit ahead. We were on Zoom 2 weeks after 2 weeks into lockdown, we were already doing Zoom shows before anyone, but we're still doing them. I mean, that's another thing too. We have maintained those shows because it was an innovation that really stuck. We've tried some things that haven't, Anyway, we have spin-off shows. I divorced my producing partner. That kept it fresh. And it was hard. And so, we added music. There's a music director who came in when I restarted. I tried to end it, didn't. And then when we brought it back, I did it with a partner who was a musical director, and we added music. So, staying open. Honoring the past, creating the future.
Honoring the past and creating the future. I love that. So the next question was about you being the godmother of alternative comedy, whether you've always wanted to be a comedian. And I think you answered that a bit. Mm-hmm. Did you just grow into it, or you always wanted to be a comedian? Did you always want to make people laugh? I know is it so much about making fun or connection? Because I think you also mentioned connection.
It's about connection for sure. Yeah. I don't know. I didn't always want to be a comedian. And in fact, I have a hard time even with that word now. I think there's a certain sort of feeling around that word. I love being on stage and doing what exactly looks like comedy. And I am a comedian, but I feel like it's got such a vibe around it, that word. But yeah. I remember being, in bed with my parents watching the late night talk shows and laughing and thinking this is the greatest thing. And I've really loved being funny. I mean, it is a joy. So.
Amazing. Thank you. Now, in regards, because you do too many things, in regards to companies. I know you've worked with Disney, Oxygen. I want to know, what's your most exciting project that you've worked on?
I think we've really talked about the most exciting projects, you know.
Yeah, yeah, okay. And I know you were the first guest star for Will and Grace. What was that like?
Well, one of the great lessons of that, I mean, it was amazing to come into the show as the first guest star because they were really just, the energy was really, it was the first season and it was just starting to become itself. And, you know, beginnings are so exciting, especially beginnings that are going well. So it was a real honor to be just in that environment. And it felt really, I felt very graced, actually. And the main real takeaway from that is the director, James Burrows, who has, you know, one of the big Hollywood directors of television. The way he directs, it's so funny because he's such a visual director and he really does do a lot of sight stuff and there's a lot of physical comedy, but the way that he directs when he's working on a scene is he closes his eyes and he listens to the scene and he listens to the words and how they're being, you know, he just listens. And I think that that's such a huge takeaway. Just listen more. You know, especially as women, I think we really can. I love to talk. Look, I'm a talker. It's my whole life. And I think because women who are trying to succeed and achieve are being, you know, we naturally shift into a male dominated paradigm, and that has to do with talking and action and doing. And this goes back to what we were talking about, the divine feminine, to it feels almost too womanly to, and maybe we're not doing enough when we listen, and listening is the other half, and we can't cut that off because we want to succeed in this world as it is. Listen more, just listen more.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you. You also have something else. You created the Infinite Creator, and this is just a hub for aspiring creatives. What inspired you to start this space and the classes that you offer? And how has that been for you?
You know, I started teaching when Un Cabaret was pretty young because there were people watching it wanting to learn how to do it. And it was such a particular kind of comedy that there wasn't anywhere else for them to learn it. And you know, the requests were coming in, and eventually we said yes. Somewhat reluctantly, I don't know why. This is me being obstinate. I mean, there are pictures of me as a little girl at a blackboard teaching. I mean, like I was born to do it, but there is also that thing that, you know, it's a second tier thing. Like if you're, you know, those who can't do teach. So I think I was afraid of the teaching part of it because I didn't want to get shuffled off into that area, which was awful because, you know, we're all teaching and learning all the time, and I definitely have it in my DNA. So, as part of my fate, destiny. Anyway, I finally accepted that. So we started it as the Uncab Lab teaching stand-up. Then it kind of grew into more different, you know, as I developed my method and what it was I was teaching and how to be your authentic self and knowing yourself and how do you know what stories to tell. It kind of grew past what was called the Uncab Lab. And we renamed it The Comedian's Way, which was kind of a joke on the artist's way. And it was a picture of me falling through those mountains that she has on the cover of that book. And we taught that way for a while. And then when I split with my partner, I didn't want to carry over our, you know, I just wanted a fresher start. And and then it was just the Beth Lapides workshop. Eventually I was like, the title should say more and I should have, you know, and then I turned it into the Infinite Writer because I found there were more different kinds of writers coming to me than just comedy writers. And I was just listening to what that need was. And eventually it became, well, it's a whole system. I'm really coaching as much as teaching, and different kinds of people are coming to me, including, you know, therapists, authors who want to do speeches, and business people who are doing speeches, and people who want to work on their social media, and a lot of writers, and some, you know, comedians, and I'm working with people on creating really not just the work, but the life that goes with the work, and that it is infinitely connected. And sometimes like learning to trust yourself or make a decision, which falls outside the exact realm of making the work, but is so important to the work. So eventually, fairly recently, I shifted to the Infinite Creator, and perhaps this is the title that I will, stick with for the rest of my days. But it is a community, and it's a community of creators who understand that there's a transformation that is always happening. And it is about the transformation into the person who can do the work, doing the work, and then growing into that person, and then doing it's, this is amazing sort of constantly evolving and growing and organically becomingness that we're allowed to do, and which I really believe in.
That's amazing. I like it. Infinite Creator. I just feel that that's the right one.
It's right for now. Who knows how things will change? And eventually, when I came to understand that, part of it is turning the piles of paper that you have into projects, and then getting those projects out into the world. That I am both like 100% process oriented and 100% product oriented. That's 200%. I understand that. But, people tend to be one or the other, and I'm really both. So that connection also creates the infinite loop for me.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. It's all inclusive. Yeah, that's very good. Thank you. So you're a host, a comedian, a producer, an author, a coach, an actor, an actress. And I can see that there's just so many skill sets there. What skill set do you see that transcends through all of this? Is there a particular skill set that you see that allows you to serve in all those capacities?
Well, beyond that skill set that we talked about at the beginning, I would say curiosity I don't know if it's a skill, but it is definitely part of my nature. I think storytelling, being a storyteller, is a skill set, and that is definitely woven in all those things. And the skill of connecting, not just the desire to connect, but the ability to do it.
That's amazing. Thank you for that. So how do you keep going? What keeps you going? Let us do that. Your world of yours. What keeps you going?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I mean, I'm curious to see how it's going to turn out. I enjoy my work. I really enjoy my work. I enjoy life. I'm hungry to know. I have a hunger to experience more. I am ambitious by nature. Maybe I have a high opinion of myself, and I want to be out there, and I want to be known, and I want to know and be known. I mean, I feel I do love helping people, and I do feel that I've found more than one career that genuinely people are better for my having done the work. Maybe.
Yes. Thank you. I love them all. So if we had to go back in time and meet your 15-year-old self, what key message would you like to share with her?
That question always flummoxes me, because if I told her something, she wouldn't be the person she was, and then I wouldn't be me. And now we're into like the time travel conundrums. And my mind is so literal. I'm such a literal, and for, such a creative person, my mind is super literal. I'm like, that could never happen, Stella. That just can't be. I just don't know. Everything I know that she didn't, the things that she didn't know that she's learned. How would I be me if I told her anything? I guess if I would just whisper love to her. I would just quietly, in a very quiet voice that she might not even be knowing that she was hearing. I would maybe, maybe it wouldn't be so necessary to have beat myself up so hard during so much of it.
That's good. Thank you. So where do we see Beth in the next 5 to 10 years?
I try not to, I try not to be too more, I love the books. I do follow the flow a little bit. So all this but more, I'm on this path and you don't exactly know. There's a TV show that I think is going to go, but maybe that will take my energy, and I certainly am working on the next book, and when will that come out? I'm not sure. Hopefully before 10 years. Hopefully, more books, more shows, more of the Infinite Creator. Hear about more.
Yeah,
Hear about
all the
more.
best with that.
Hoping to surprises. Don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, we look forward to all of that. We look forward to all of that. So do you have a life mantra?
Well, I do have a mantra, as I've told you before. I guess my life mantra currently is, and I hate it and I love it. I think my mantra now is everything is unfolding in divine and perfect order. And I will tell you that the first time I heard somebody say it, I wanted to hit them. I mean, I am not a violent person, and it made me so mad. I was like, how can you say that? That is obviously not true. But the fact that I got so mad about it made me think, like, you might want to believe that, but not feel like you can. And, eventually, so I started saying it as a joke when things were really bad. Like, obviously, they're not. Like, everything's so effed up, And I would say that. And I said it once on stage when things were really like, it was a night where there was just every logistical thing going wrong. And it got a huge laugh. And then I just thought, it's hilarious. I mean, it's hilarious, but the fact that I said it and it got a laugh sort of made it true. And the fact that it made it true by saying it, what it does. So I started saying it more and I started believing it more. And the more I said it, the more I believed it. And then, and what it does for me is sometimes it takes me out of the moment of like, this is bad, and it puts me into that thing that I was talking about, the big picture, like me not being able to see. It's another way of saying like you can't see God's whole plan and there's a bigger plan. And whether you think of it as like a computer game and you're in a computer game and there's or whether you think like whatever it is, it takes you out of ego and out of controlling everything, and it does release some of that. And again, I'm going to go back to being a woman and feeling like, we have to work so hard because the world is not shaped to make things easy for us to flow in. So it takes some of the struggle and turns it into challenges and opportunities when I say that. Anyway, it's I hesitate to say it. I might listen to this in 9 months and go, I can't believe I said that was my mantra. That's not my mantra at all. But my mantra, is like, sometimes I do also say less is being revealed. Less is always being revealed, because I just think the more I mean, and I would say this about that too. It's like, the more that the more questions there are. Love the question. I try to just live in this place of like, life is a mystery. Love the questions. Less is being revealed. Everything's unfolding in perfect and divine order. And the corollary, I might not be seeing everything that is. It's more than a mantra, like an attitude. I try to keep going back to that attitude.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's both. It's lovely. Thank you. So we would like you to leave one challenge for women who are going to read this story, who are going to listen to it, view it, to help them become courageous in their decision-making process. What challenge would you like to leave them?
Release the idea of what you should be doing.
Release
what you should be doing.
And listen to your heart.
And download my book.
Yeah, download the book.
Listen to my book and your heart.
Yes. And we'll leave the link behind for all the listeners and viewers, all the subscribers, be able to tap into all those lovely conversations and how decisions are being.
Really, Stella, the thing that we've been talking about this whole time, just to come back to that, which is the courage to release you, the courage to follow your heart. and the courage to act despite fear, to not expect that there isn't going to be fear, but to understand the difference between life-threatening fear and not, putting yourself in jeopardy, and just the kind of fear that is natural when you're taking chances, and to know that really every wonderful thing has come from taking some kind of risk, to get comfortable with that risk taking and get smarter at it. And that comes from learning to listen to your intuition and being willing to make mistakes, to fail. This is where success lives. And, I wish your listeners all the greatest success.
Oh, thank you so much for your time. So all our subscribers, and I know that they are going to learn a lot from your story, from your knowledge, from all the experiences that you've been able to share. I've definitely learned a lot, and there's a lot for me to reflect upon. All of you would like you to actually download the book, so you need to decide, and we'll leave you the link on how to actually get that book. So it has been amazing. It's still me, Stella Olivia Kikoyo, the editor-in-chief of the Stellar Woman magazine. Thank you so much for being here. And with us is Beth Lapides. Beth has been awesome. She has given us so much time. It has just been a great time having you here. We love that we've heard from you, and that we're going to share all your experiences on all our social media platforms. So thank you, Beth. Until next time, bye-bye, all of you. Bye.
Thank you for joining us on the Stellar Woman magazine and show's mission to spread thriving women's stories, knowledge, and experiences so that you too can learn one or two things, be inspired, empowered to change, and thrive. We change one woman at a time. This, we believe, will help to make the world a better and brighter world. I hope today's episode inspired you to change perspective, see new possibilities, and take action so that you can become the stellar woman that you would like to be. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to go to the Stellar Woman Show and magazine website for transcripts and more. Also, please remember to subscribe, review, and share with others, and follow us on all social media platforms. Have a great day. We look forward to catching up with you on the next episode.